Jaime from Inky&Scrappy back with my Let's Get Creeping on Halloween make for November 2024, Shadow on the Moon. So to start this one, I really kind of wanted to try this background technique and see if it worked with this particular embossing folder. So I really hadn't figured out the rest of the card until I was, until I had that idea, and then it just kind of came together. But I wanted to start with a background panel and kind of see how it looked or how it worked and kind of build from there. So I started with Ranger's Distress Heavy Stock. It's not my favorite for liquid blending, but it works pretty good for Distress Oxides and Distress Ink, like, blending with blending foam sort of thing, not so much with their spray inks and such. But so I started with some Villainous Potion. I was heavy-handed towards the top. I knew that the bottom was going to have more than likely my ground on it, so I wasn't too concerned with the bottom part, but I wanted to see if this was going to work to start with and go from there. So I'm just using one of the Tim Holtz moon masks. This one was actually the one that came with the stamp timber set in 2021 maybe. Anyways, there's many out there. It's just basically I needed a circle stencil. So I used that for my circle. Now I could have probably just done a circle die cut with Avery removable label sheets, and maybe I should have. I decided to try it with the mint tape. Only for running it through, I wanted to ink my embossing folder, and I didn't want the moon to have that ink on it. Yeah, you'll see how this goes. I put it on my shirt, but my shirt really didn't have any lint on it, so it didn't really help with that sticky factor. So I'm bringing in the Tim Holtz Skulls 3D folder. It's probably my favorite from last year's Halloween release. I think it was last year. Maybe it was the year before even. Anyways, I hadn't gotten around to it this holiday season or this Halloween season, so of course I wanted to try this, for this one. But I thought it would be fun to add this as kind of a subtle background to my background panel or to my scene panel. I tried to use Distress Archival. I don't know. I haven't had them for forever, but they're definitely not very juicy. I probably would have had better results with Distress Oxides. It turned out all right. I started with the Hickory Smoke, which was going to be way too light, and I did end up doing the Black Soot, which turned out okay. I think once it all dried, it wasn't nearly as good. And this is where I say it didn't come off very good. So I ended up bringing in my heat tool. I had a lot of issues. I probably would have been better off with a little teeny tiny piece of adhesive and a piece of circle on there as opposed to the mint tape. Yeah, or I needed to lint it up a lot more. I don't know. In the end, it only tore a little bit off. I just come in with the glue there. I saved it for the most part. I just came in with my glue and kind of glued it back down. Added a little ink on top. Nobody needs to know, that I had a couple of issues. It was all good. I did, add on the moon mask here. It really didn't. Maybe if I had come in with a gray, you could have seen it a little bit better. It really didn't matter. It just added a little bit more character. But ultimately, I loved how that skull embossing folder added, a subtle skeleton hint to the background for my scene. So once it's all, the card's all done, it's a lot more subtle, I think, than right now. I did come back in with that Villainous Potion Oxide blending brush just to kind of hit the higher parts again, to kind of brighten them a little bit more, fill in any of the cracks that maybe turned white when it went through the die cut machine. And, of course we had to add some sparkle. So I ended up going in with Winsor & Newton's watercolor iridescent medium. I brought back in that moon mask. I do end up taking it off. I just didn't want it to have a whole lot of sparklies on it, because ultimately at this point I had already decided I was going to come in with some Nightmare Before Christmas stamps that are no longer available. I understand that. I know there's companies out there that have them, so look for, Bone Daddy or Nightmare Before Christmas stamps. I don't know exactly. I just know Inkroad is currently not up and running at the moment. They're on hiatus for a little while, but their Jack and Sally, or their Jack stamps have been out for quite a while. I was lucky to snag them a long while back. And so, yes, I have all three. I love them. Anyways, so I want to get that swoop on that hill, and I'm just kind of taking that stamp from Jack and Sally as kind of my inspirational, I guess, swirl, and kind of went from there and just kind of I traced it on the backside backwards. So like, you know, because I knew that I was going to flip it over for the front side. So of course I went in with some black glitter cardstock. I just thought it would be, you know, fun to add a punch of glitter to this one. You know, it's me. Glitz and glitter and all the things. I'm about as ungirly as they get, but I love glitter. It's all good. So I'm adding some glue onto the back of that one because it's going on that heavily embossed paper. You know, I wanted to make sure that it was going to adhere well. So I'm going to put that on there and kind of form my little swirl with my cutout paper there. It wasn't perfect. It works. It worked well though. So for this one, I really wanted to bring in the Jack icons and put the, you know, Bone Daddy with his Santa hat on there for this one, you know, as we're ramping up for holiday season or the Christmas season. That's kind of what I wanted. So I didn't like the size-wise on that one, so I ended up bringing in the Jack and Sally stamp set, and I'm just going to selectively ink here. I'm going to zoom it in so you don't have to see my head, like the top of my head. Incredibly a lot, but I'm going to just selectively stamp. I'm going to clean this one off so just Jack is on there. Now, keep in mind, I am trying to stamp this on an already embossed background because, you know, I wasn't planning ahead and I had to put the hill on before I could stamp them on there anyways. So I kind of just use the stamp as my guide. So you really want you to stamp, especially if you're very good at kind of taking that, shall I say, hand, I don't know, kind of looking at something and kind of sketching it out. You probably could do this one freehand if you're good at that. I'm okay at it, but if I can have any type of a guide as to where things are supposed to maybe line up, I will use that in my entirety. I did add a little Santa hat on there, you know, as the Nightmare Before Christmas. He needed that Santa hat. I didn't give him the beard or anything because, you know, it just wasn't gonna. I was not that ambitious, okay? I didn't think I'd be able to get it that good. I did come in and kind of cut this down a little bit. I should have cut it down a little bit more before. I should have cut it to 4 inches by 5 1/4. I didn't have it totally cut to where I needed it. I guess I just wasn't paying attention probably more than anything. So I'm bringing in Jack's sentiments on this one, and you could definitely just do this sentiment on your, you know, in a Word document type thing and just print it out. Would work just fine. I used to do them all the time on my inkjet printer back in the day. There was on Vellum and all of the things because it just worked. But I'm taking this piece of Vellum here. I just kind of cut off the top by tearing it. I thought it would add just a layer of interest to that whole scene, and I'm just going to stamp that on top. Now, it wasn't exactly the right size that I needed it. I probably could have planned that a little bit better. But if you're here and you've been here for a while, you know I don't plan things out usually. You know, usually I'm just a by the seat of my pants kind of girl. I did stamp this with the Distress Archival. It kind of looks shmeary. So I did bring in my black embossing powder, and if you've been here a while, you know how much I love black embossing powder. I hate it. I did bring it in here. It did work okay. I was just afraid that the clear would maybe make it look like it ran a little bit more, or, you know. So I opted for the black. Plus the black kind of gives me more of a matte look. I don't know if my black's just old. Maybe I bought the matte and didn't realize I bought the matte, but it is not glossy black. It's definitely more of a matte black for me. So I just kind of peeled off or kind of tore it a little bit more because I didn't want to cover up the whole part of that hill. I just wanted it to kind of be on the bottom there. It kind of gives that sentiment something to stand out on. I obviously wasn't going to try to do it on glitter cardstock and heat emboss on glitter cardstock, so this way it worked. So I ran it through my little sticker maker, and this way it gets that whole adhesive behind that vellum, and so it doesn't look like you have adhesive on it. I hope that makes sense. It also makes the vellum less see-through, or more see-through-ish, I guess. I don't know. This one you really couldn't tell, but I think it's just because it was fully backed with adhesive on the vellum, so you didn't have like a wet looking spot. I hope that's the right term for it, or you know, because usually if you put adhesive on the back, I would probably speckle it just on the sentiment, but I like the fact that I could just stick the whole thing down. So I'm bringing in a white cardstock base. I decided I don't like the white, and it's not quite gonna center, so I'm gonna cut it down a little bit better here, so it's actually 5 1/4 by 4. And I struggled to get it to cut, and yes, it tore my vellum, and I was like, but it was what it was, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go with it. So I did bring back in the Distress Archival ink pad, and I just kind of inked the edges here. It kind of leaves a little bit of a haze, so it's not pure black. I did also come in with that Hickory smoke and kind of rub a little bit more along there, just so it wasn't stark white. It just kind of dirtied it a little bit, and so it kind of gives a, I don't know, I don't want to say a fake frame look, but that's kind of what it did. And so I've been cleaning stuff, and I may have found some really old Scotch 3M adhesive sheet thingies. These are like old school like adhesive. So it like sticks on, and then whatever it adheres to, they're like little dots, and then they stick to those raised areas, and then you just, the rest stays on that little release sheet. And so I just kind of went over it and kind of made sure that all of the peaks had glue on them. I am also coming in with a little bit of liquid glue here just to make sure that it stays down well. So, you know, you'll probably be seeing me use some older things in my adhesive drawer because I'm trying to weed out the older stuff and use it up. I'm sure I'm not the only one in the audience with that. But so there's my finished card. I sense there is something in the wind. And then the inside I did finish, and I am the shadow on the moon at night, filling you to the brim with fright. Thanks for watching, and make sure to like, subscribe, comment, all of those things. Have an amazing rest of your day. Bye!